Welcome back to Southern Acres Homestead with Britt and Brandy. I'm Brandy. Today we're going to have a video all about my top 4 homeschool summer reads. Whether you've been homeschooling for 1 year, you've never homeschooled, you've homeschooled 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, these books are sure to inspire you no matter where you are in your journey. Just a little background on our family. We have 5 children ages 9 to 3. This will be our 5th year of homeschooling, so we have a little experience under our belt, but we have so much to learn still. But these books I have had, I think, from the very first year we started homeschooling, and I have loved them ever since. I will read and reread them. So these are just 4 books for you to check out as you go along your journey, wherever you are in that journey. So these are my top 4 picks of homeschool books for you to read this summer. The number 4 book that I think you should read this summer before starting your homeschool year is Call of the Wild and Free by Ainsley Arment. I think this was one of the first books I got when I started my homeschooling journey. I really love this book because I forgot to mention this before. I am type A, Enneagram 1, perfectionist. I want everything to be just so, and I get very frustrated and frazzled when things aren't the way they're supposed to be. This helps me kind of let go more, calm down, be more free. And as I've come through, this will be our 5th year of homeschooling, through our journey, I've become more and more calm with our journey and the things that we're doing. Some of the principles in this book have really helped me. I just want to read this quote from this book. I'll probably read a quote from each book because they're so powerful. The quote is, "Instead of raising children who turn out okay despite their childhood, let's raise children who turn out extraordinary because of their childhood." I mean, what more could you want for your child than for their life to be extraordinary? It doesn't have to be in a worldly sense of extraordinary, just in the sense of something greater than themselves, something greater than ordinary. I can't ask for anything more for my children than to have an extraordinary life in those terms. Some other principles in this book are it's gonna help you find out like a mission and a purpose for why you would want to homeschool. I think we all need that. If you're gonna homeschool, you're gonna wanna know why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're not gonna continue doing it because it's not an easy journey. It's not typical. Maybe it's more typical these days, but it's a different journey for each person. So you're gonna wanna know why you're doing it before you get into it. Another thing it talks about is myths about homeschooling, which I love. There are so many myths about homeschooling. Socialization, are they gonna be prepared for college? What's gonna happen to them later? Just all the things that people just, when they think of homeschooling, all the negative things they think about, she kind of combats in this book, which I love. Because there are negatives and positives to school. There's not negative and positive to homeschool. You're always gonna have a negative and positive. But she goes and talks about how you can flip the negative things that people would say about homeschool and just combats it. I love it. Another thing she talks about is the style of your homeschool. You're gonna have a particular style, and you're going to want to try to find out what that is so you can tailor it to your family. And that is the best way to do it, because not all homeschool families are the same. You have some that have 1 child, you have some that have 3, you have some that have 5 like us, and some that have like 10. Also, all your learning styles for all your children are going to be different. Some families are more relaxed, some families are more structured like ours. The different styles, you're going to want to know what you're getting into before you start your journey. The last thing she talks about are methods you can use when you're homeschooling. All these are great things as you try to prepare each year. It's not just if you're starting homeschool. Each year you want to think about how things are going to go, or what didn't work, what has worked, what hasn't worked. You're going to want to try to rehash all those things each year, no matter if this is your 1st year or your 5th year or the 20th year. I just think this is a great book. Also bringing back to innocence, basically. I feel like a lot of innocence has been lost in childhood especially now. And this kind of brings us back to what is the spirit of being a child and why it's important to keep that intact. All right, now we're back to my number 3 pick of homeschool books you should read this summer before the school year. This is not an overtly homeschooling book, but I think it's great to read this. You'll see in a second. I'll explain that in a second. It's called Adventuring Together by Greta Eskridge. I love this book. It's not, like I said, overtly homeschool book, but it's all about fostering relationships, which obviously is super important when you're homeschooling. You want to have a relationship with your child. That's one of the main reasons you would want to homeschool, is to foster that relationship and just keep it growing and building, so that your children, as they get older, they will know that they can come back to you with whatever situation that they have. I love this book because she doesn't talk about, when we think about venturing, a lot of times we think about we're going to go outside and adventure. She talks about ways you can adventure inside, outside. And I love this quote. She says, "Adventuring together gives us the opportunity to open up our hearts to one another and to the world around us." So another key point I love about this book, we're fostering relationships, but she also is talking about how our lives are not just about us. The world is not about us. It's about everything around us, and adventuring shows us that. When you adventure, you explore new things, and you see new things, and you experience things in a different way. And that's what we need in life, is to experience things and know that the world isn't just so self-focused. Also, another key point I love that she says is that life, it's relational, so it's a lifelong journey, and you can adventure and have a relationship throughout the course of your child's life. When you are starting out, you can start with little adventures like going to a library or like going to a different museum and experiencing things different ways. And as they get older, you can do larger adventures or just something outside of the ordinary. Basically, an adventure doesn't have to be grand. It could be anything outside of the confines of your normal routine. So adventuring together, love this book. Just foster relationships with your children. I mean, what more could you want with your homeschooling journey, is getting a deeper relationship with your child. Number 2, top book you should read this summer before you start your homeschool journey is The Read Aloud Family by Sarah Mackenzie. She is the founder of Read Aloud Revival. She also started her podcast. I cannot say enough good things about this book. This book just inspires me so much. It's crazy. The key focus of this book is fostering a bond. You'll hear that all throughout what I talk about, fostering a bond between yourself and your child, which is sometimes hard for me because I am a feeler, I'm a carer, but I also am very rigid. And it's very hard for me when things don't go correctly that I think they should go. So fostering relationships with my children is a really big deal to me, and this is a great book to talk about how stories and reading aloud to your child can just foster that relationship and create such deep bonds, and also teaching them at the same time, which is great. One of the quotes I wanted to read to you, this book is full of so many great nuggets, so I'm going to read a couple to you. This one is so good. "The stories we read together act as a bridge when we can't seem to find another way to connect." Have you ever had that where you want to have a relationship with someone but you can't find really a way to connect? Stories are such a great way to connect someone, whether it's through a book or a movie or a song or whatever. In this case, she's talking about a book and how the story can connect you and bond you and create memories for your whole life. I just love that. In this book, she focuses on slowing down, which is also another thing I struggle with greatly. I think most people struggle with that today. Slowing down, there's just so many things we have to do, so many places we have to go. We just need to slow down and realize what is important, and that is our children and raising the next generation of people. It's just one of the most important things in life. Another thing she talks about are finding, making bonds in inconsequential moments. You might think that reading a short story to your child, a picture book, even to like your 10, 12, 13-year-old is like not a big deal and it's not going to do anything. If you continuously do that with your child, it's going to make a huge impact and form bonds that would otherwise not be formed. So huge. Another quote from the book is, "I read aloud to my kids because I know that my years with them are short." How many times have we talked about this? Our years with them are so short. We have a 9, 8, 6, 5, and 3-year-old. A lot of times Britt and I look at each other and we're like, what happened? Where did those years go? They're just all a blur, and we're already halfway through our 9-year-old's time at home. That's so sad. The years are so short. Make the time to make bonds. For me, it's so hard to just take a moment, and I tell my kids all the time, oh, I'm so busy, let me finish this. And I'm trying to be better about taking the time just to sit down, either play a game, read a story, do something that is going to make a bond with them and last a lot longer. And this is why I recommend this book so much, is because we need to take that time, especially myself. I need to take that time with my kids to create those bonds. She also talks about the power of a story. Also, this is the last quote I'll read from this book. I mean, it's just so good. If we tell them enough stories, they will have encountered hard questions and practice living through so many trials, hardships, and unexpected situations that, God willing, they will have what they need to become the heroes of their own stories. Because in stories you can encounter so many different things that you might not encounter in real life, and try to see a course that could be taken, or a better course that could have been taken, and experience those trials through someone else and implement those in your life as you live. I mean, it's just so many good things in this book. She also talks about the benefits of read alouds, some myths about reading aloud, and how to be successful in your read alouds. Whether you have little kids, babies, toddlers, all the way up to high school, college age kids, you still can take the time to read aloud and have that time with your child. So this is my number 2 pick for homeschool reads this summer. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for, my number 1 pick for homeschool reads this summer is Teaching from Rest. And hello, it's by Sarah Mackenzie again. She wrote the Read Aloud Family that I just talked about, number 2. This book is so good. Also, to let you know, this is a book all about how we can find our rest in God, and I'm not going to pretend that everyone who homeschools believes in God or is religious, but I would say a lot of people are. But I believe in God. I believe in the power of His presence, and I believe that I would not be able to homeschool if it was not for Him. And so this is my top pick, Teaching from Rest. The very first couple pages, I think it's in the introduction, this quote is so good. It says, "The heart of this book is about remembering what our true task really is, and then throwing ourselves in completely." I'm going to pause there. Homeschool, you have to throw yourself in. If you go off the deep end, you might at the beginning. Even every year you might go off the deep end every year, but you have to throw yourself all in and be committed. Go back to the quote. Giving our all. The raising of children, the teaching of truth, the sharing of life, the nourishing of imagination, and the cultivating of wisdom. These are all His anyway. We are merely His servants. Everything I do in my homeschool is His, and it's for Him. And this book reminds me of that, and that I need to calm down and be focused. Even if you are not religious, even if you do not believe in God, I think this is an important concept that you need to teach from rest. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say. You have to have a focus and you have to have a resting point. Otherwise, you can't move forward. It doesn't mean that this concept in this book doesn't mean that your rest, as we think of it, is going to be easy. Because rest, as we think of it, is, oh, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to rest. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy for you. It means having a focus and being diligent. It's taking the time to understand that you have to take a breath. Not that that breath is going to be easy, not that that time is going to be easy, but you have to take it in order to move forward. One more quote from this. Rest is trusting that God's got this. Even if I'm a mess, even if I'm not enough, even if I mess up every day, because I do. And even though I mess up every single day, I tell my kids, I mess up every day because I'm a human and I am not God. But that's okay because He has got it all in control. And I've got to remember that, especially in homeschooling, no matter if they don't want to do their reading or they don't like the math or they're struggling. We can just take a moment and know that it is all going to work out. And if we are doing this for the right reason and the right purpose, and that we were called to do this, He is going to take us through it, through the journey. So that is my top pick, Teaching from Rest. It's only like 80 something pages. If you get no other book that I talked about, get this book. It changed my life. It is so good. I think this was the very first book I read before I started homeschooling. Also, I just want to thank you for checking this out. Please comment below with any books that you read either every year or that inspire you on your homeschooling journey or that have helped you. If you could like and subscribe, I would love to just go on this journey with you, and we will have more homeschooling videos later. We'll have more gardening, we'll have more homesteading videos, but we are also going to talk about curriculum, what I've chosen this year, kind of like maybe a day in the life of a homeschooler. We'll see what happens. If you have an idea that you would like to see, you can drop it in the comments, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.